Now, yesterday, the 9th of July, 2014, the newest nation in the world, or even in Africa, South Sudan, celebrated its third independence anniversary with celebrations there in the capital, Juba. Our very own President Yoweri Museveni was in attendance, of course, key in the progress of South Sudan. And of course, we have forces there that are keeping the peace. But there is an uneasy calm in South Sudan at the moment, with the semblance of a peace accord between Riek Machar, who's former vice president, and the president, Salva Kiir. But that's the discussion we'll be having tonight on Newsnight and the way forward for South Sudan. That's coming up. Welcome back. You're watching Newsnight with the old man of the clan and also CEO of the independent magazine, Andrew Mwenda. Andrew, 3 years ago, I was in South Sudan. Fortunately, I was there for the referendum on independence, and then 6 months later went back for the independence on the 9th of July 2011. You know, 3 years down the road, there's been a lot of bumps, you know, for this young nation called South Sudan that not many would have foreseen. The current or the former vice president, who then was actually in charge of the ceremony, I remember on Independence Day, he was the master of ceremony, is in the bush, well, fighting the same government now he helped set up. You said you were there for the referendum? Yes.
Now I can see the source of the problems of South Sudan. Your presence must have been a curse to that country. But anyhow, jokes aside, I think, first of all, building a nation from scratch is a very difficult enterprise. I should tell you, if you look at Milton Obote, Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere, all these people actually inherited infrastructure of a state that the colonial government had built. There was a police force, there was some semblance of an army, a civil service. The South Sudanese are the only people I know who have inherited a country, perhaps with very few countries I have known have been born, where there was not even the least rudimentary infrastructure of the state. An army, a police force, a civil bureaucracy, an education system, a healthcare system. Let me tell you, Maurice, the biggest challenge poor countries face is a challenge of social organization. How do you build systems and processes that can do the same tasks over and over again in a routine way and produce the same result? I'll give you an example. It is very easy to build a great hospital and equip it. It's very easy to build a bank and a building and put in computers. It is very easy to build schools and roads. It is very difficult to build a healthcare delivery system. It's very difficult to build a police force that works. It is very difficult to build social systems. And to see a building, you can hire a consultant, they put it up. But to put in place a system where medicines are procured, they are stored, they are kept in proper order, then they are withdrawn when necessary, given to patients in the hospital. You have doctors who report on time, nurses who report on time, cleaners, other logistics. The system, the social organization that is required, what we call systems and processes, to ensure the delivery of an efficient and effective healthcare system is a much more complex task than just building a hospital. So that is what happened in South Sudan. The vast majority of the people who work in South Sudan, they lacked previous experience in managing a modern bureaucratic state. They had been rebels in the bush. The SPLA itself was not an efficient and organizational machine like the RPF was, well, the TPLF or the EPLF. These other revolutionary movements, they developed better coherence and better internal discipline and organizational structures. This was a very weakly and loosely organized system. The third thing, if you go to South Sudan, is, which is so sad, you know, if you were a leader of a militia and your general, or Maurice Mugisha, when you came with your 20,000 soldiers or 15,000 soldiers, you became part of the SPLA, but the soldiers remained under your command in your own region. They never integrated, you integrated on paper into SPLA, but you did not become part of the mainstream force.
Does this work for you, the DDR you mentioned?
I'll give you an example what Museveni did here, what Kagame did. When Kagame took over Rwanda, or Museveni took over Uganda, there were so many rebel groups, including the official army in LA. When they integrated them, they would get all the soldiers and scatter them in different units of the NRA.
So there was no single unit?
There was no single unit. The first time they tried to preserve one unit was, I think, 55th Battalion, which they sent to northern Uganda because of the civil war of UFM and the FEDEM. So what they did is they scattered all these soldiers across so many units so that they diluted and therefore integrated actually structurally, but also intellectually and ideologically into the army. In South Sudan, they never did this form of integration.
And with South Sudan, some of them were ethnically divided.
Yes. So when Riek Machar said, I'm rebelling, Maurice, who decided to support Riek Machar, had his 15,000 men and his command in his own region. He said, I have also rebelled. So the army could not act coherently. If you look at the education system or health system, I think that we will be judging them unfairly to expect that in 3 years you have built a modern bureaucratic state.
There's a lot of goodwill, Andrew. I mean, on independence, there was all the UN agencies and all the international community, including the World Bank, the IMF, for the economy. And when you look at health, you know, UNICEF and other UN agencies that deal in health and child rights and women affairs. And you had countries like Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and the region, IGAD itself, that was willing to support the new nation politically. How could that have failed? For us to actually have seen that they should have done
Actually,
this.
it not fail. If you've been to Juba recently, you can see there's a lot of business, there has been a lot of economic activity.
Yes.
What failed in South Sudan is the system of social organization. This is what I'm saying. The UN and the World Bank, what do they go there to do? They go to build roads. They go to build schools and hospitals.
But that does not...
They cannot build the social tissue that keeps a society together. You see, there are two things you have to do. One, the management of the economy. Two, the management of the politics. The management of the politics is a much more complex thing because people want to hear what they want to hear. People read what they want to read. Whatever I'm saying here, I am sure an outsider, any viewer there who is biased will get their own biases. They will not even hear my argument. So it takes an exceptional open-mindedness for you to listen to the other party. So what happened in South Sudan is they could not even bridge their own political differences, which have an ethnic nature, which are power struggles among elites. But the other thing is that even if they do not have political differences as they have matured right now, which was also itself almost inevitable, is that the South Sudanese state crumbled on the fact that there was, from the very beginning, the core infrastructure. You know what matters for the state? The state's primary objective is to ensure law and order, is to ensure the protection of person and property. So the coercive elements of the state must develop first and foremost. The state must be able to have an army that is unified under one command, that is disciplined, and that is committed to defending the core values and elites that are in power. That is one. It must have a police force, a prison system, and a judicial system that can initially function. Democracy and other things must be discussed later. In South Sudan, because of donor influence, the cart was put before the horse, and the horse could not push the cart because they front-loaded democracy. Said, you have elections, you have democracy, you have this and this. But you cannot... The states of Western Europe first evolved as strong military machines.
Before...
States, as Charles Tiller said, states make war and war makes states. Once these states had evolved, supported private individuals to accumulate wealth through industrialization, then they were able, the new social groups that they produced, workers, student movements, youth, middle classes, whatever it was, they became the vanguards to promote democratic leadership. Here, you do not even have the basic rudimentary aspects of the state. The core infrastructure of the state is missing. And you're already saying people should be into elections. Really? Is that the solution for South Sudan?
Well, Andrew, we'll hold it there. We really have run out of time. This debate continues on South Sudan. Well, that was Newsnight.